Hi there, I'm Bathsheba and I live in ancient Jerusalem. Let me tell you about a funny and surprising adventure I had. It all started on a sunny day, much like any other, but little did I know it would turn out to be anything but ordinary. I decided to take a bath outside because, well, who doesn't love soaking in the sun and enjoying the water? So there I was, splashing around and humming a happy tune, when I suddenly felt like someone was watching me. I looked up, and guess what? King David himself was staring right at me. I almost slipped and fell, it was so surprising. Now, King David is not just any king. He's a warrior, a poet, and as it turns out, a bit of a peeper. But let me tell you, he looked more embarrassed than I did. His face turned redder than a ripe pomegranate. Trying to act casual, he quickly looked away, but I couldn't help but giggle at the whole situation. Later that day, I received an invitation to the palace. I thought, why not? Let's see what this king has to say. When I arrived, there he was, trying his best to look regal and composed, but I could see the nervousness in his eyes. He welcomed me with a smile that was a bit too wide and offered me a drink. As he handed it to me, he spilled some on his fancy robe. I tried to hold back my laughter, but it was impossible. We started talking, and I found out that David was not just a great king, but also a genuinely nice and funny guy. We laughed and joked about everything, from his awkward rooftop moment to his grand adventures. He told me stories about his past, like the time he defeated a giant named Goliath with just a slingshot. Can you imagine that? A giant? David's sense of humor was infectious. He made me laugh so much that I forgot I was talking to a king. We even shared a few secrets and dreams. By the end of our meeting, I was curious and excited to see where this would lead. There was something special about David that I couldn't quite put my finger on, but I knew I wanted to find out more. As I left the palace that day, I knew this was just the beginning of something special. I couldn't wait to meet David again, and after that surprising and funny first meeting with King David, things started to get even more interesting. We began meeting secretly, and let me tell you, sneaking around a palace is not as easy as it sounds, but it sure is fun. David and I had to be really careful. He would wear the silliest disguises, like a gardener's hat or a cook's apron, and I would sneak in through the back gates. One time, he even pretended to be a palace juggler, dropping all the balls just to make me laugh. It was hilarious. Our secret meetings were filled with laughter and adventure. We would talk for hours about everything under the sun. David told me about his childhood as a shepherd and how he once fought a lion to protect his sheep. I shared stories about my family and my own funny experiences, like the time I accidentally dyed my father's prized sheep purple. We laughed so much, my sides hurt. But while our love was blossoming, David still had his kingly duties. The kingdom was buzzing with important events. There were battles to fight and political issues to handle. Sometimes, during our conversations, David would suddenly remember a meeting or a decision he had to make. It was funny seeing him juggle his responsibilities while trying to spend time with me. Picture this, a mighty king scribbling love notes in between signing important documents. It was like watching a comedy show. As time went on, I realized that I was falling in love with David. He was kind, brave, and had a heart full of humor. But there was also a big problem. David was married, and I was already someone's wife. Our love was strong, but it came with a lot of challenges. We knew we had to be careful and think about what was best for everyone involved. One day, David and I sat down to talk about our future. It was a serious conversation, but even then, we couldn't help but joke around. He asked me what I thought about running away to live as shepherds, but I reminded him that being a king wasn't something you could just quit. We laughed, but we knew we had a big decision to make. One day, David invited me to the palace for a very important talk. He looked more serious than usual, but he still managed to trip over his own feet as he welcomed me in. We sat down, and he took a deep breath. "Bathsheba," he said, "you know I care about you deeply, but we need to figure out how to handle this without hurting others." It was a heavy conversation, but we tried to keep things light. I joked, "Maybe we can solve this with a dance-off or a pie-eating contest." David laughed, his eyes twinkling. "If only it were that simple," he replied. We both knew the stakes were high, and our decisions could affect many people. Then, a twist of fate made our decision even more urgent. I found out I was going to have a baby. I told David and he went pale, then bright red. "Well," he said with a nervous chuckle, "this certainly complicates things." We both knew we had to act fast. David came up with a plan, but it was risky. He tried to manage the situation in a way that would keep everyone safe, but things didn't go as smoothly as we hoped. The kingdom started buzzing with rumors, and it was like trying to hold water in a basket, impossible. Despite the chaos, David stood by me. He showed me his true strength, not just as a king, but as a caring, courageous person. We faced the consequences together, and even in the toughest moments, we found reasons to laugh. We joked about our silly disguises and the crazy situations we found ourselves in. Finally, after all the drama, we found a new beginning. David and I became a team, facing the kingdom's challenges together. Our love grew stronger, teaching us that with humor, heart, and someone special by your side, you can conquer anything. Thank you for following our story. If you enjoyed our adventure, leave a comment, and subscribe to hear more tales of love, laughter, and life. Stay tuned for more fun stories and exciting adventures.